having me, Ben.
It's absolutely our pleasure. Look, we've known each other for quite some time, but why don't we kick off with you tell us about your fantastic career?
Oh my, well, as they say,
mind you, we have an hour. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's a very long time. I suppose that what's interesting is my journey to entrepreneurship, and that I wasn't always an entrepreneur. In fact, I had a career in corporate, and I worked for brands. I worked for Apple. I worked for IBM. I worked for a company called Ansett, which was, but I learned so much when I was working for big organizations. And then it's nearly 20 years since I've had a real job. Actually, it's more than 20 years since I've had a real job, and I've been running my own show. But the lessons that I learned and who I observed and watched, whether it was leadership or management, as being an employee, as being part of a team, really impacted how I wanted to create the organisation. So I always said, I want to work in a place I want to work in. If I'm not having fun at work, how can anybody else have fun? And so that was very pivotal in terms of the creation of Red Balloon and now the Big Red Group.
So just while we have the opportunity, tell us about the Big Red Group. What's in there? And I mean,
lots of
when
fun.
I first met you, it was Red Balloon Day.
Yeah, it was. It was Red Balloon Days, and then became Red Balloon because people used to confuse us with a charity. That's why we dropped the days. People go, oh, and so I was the CEO of Red Balloon for about 10 years. And then I passed that baton to someone else, and I started doing other things. I did, Shark Tank. I wrote some books. I do lots of speaking, and it was really good for me to get outside of the business and look in. So I moved to a board role as a director of the business and sat on the board. And a friend of mine, David Anderson, who I knew really, really well, but he had gone overseas and then he came back and he was looking at what he was going to do. And I was telling him about what was happening at Red Balloon. He goes, I just can't believe that that's happening. He said, because the experience economy is on the rise. We know that people want experiences more than ever. And Red Balloon is famous for experience gifting. The red envelope that arrives and people feel fantastic and what am I going to do? And it's so exciting. He goes, I don't understand what's going on. And so I put him on the board as my alternate. Because of his experience and also because he had a completely different view. And after the first board meeting, he came to me and he said, there is a really big thesis that we could put together. And that is that we create a new business called the Big Red Group. And one of which, the cornerstone brand, may well be Red Balloon. But there's many jobs experiences are hired to do. And what about we acquire or create other businesses that are also in experience game, but not world famous for gifting. So over that period of time, we chose our tech platforms, and then we started to either develop brands or acquire brands within the Big Red Group. So now I think we're 5 businesses inside the Red Balloon and inside BRG. And the only reason I say that is because we've got a few other very exciting things about to happen.
Oh,
so
wow.
it's a moment in time. But we have Red Balloon, Australia and New Zealand, which people know. And then we also have Adrenaline, which is an adventure brand. It's a book and go. What are we going to do with the kids on the school holidays? And which is a wonderful, wonderful brand and very different than Red Balloon. And we found that there was actually a very small crossover customer base. We then acquired another business called Lime and Tonic. And Lime and Tonic is perfectly curated experiences, mainly in the gourmet space and in the day spa. So it's very much about a little bit of luxe and so forth. So, which is lovely. The Ready brand, which is all about experiences at work and how we're building relationships for our business customers. And then we also have the Albert Marketix brand, which is an AI distribution that we have.
Wow, that's an amazing journey. And, experience in building your own business, experience in building a group through Shark Tank, experience in mentoring and helping new businesses grow as well. So it'll be great to come back to all of that and dig into the leadership examples that you've seen and I think the way that you've led the development of the group. I guess before we go into that, let me sort of talk a little bit about Employment Hero and how we came to be.
We knew you before then.
We did. We've known each other well before then. So I started out as a lawyer, became an employment lawyer by accident, really. Wanted to go into technology, but never really gave up on the technology front. And when I went into employment law, what I discovered was probably something that you've seen in your career, is that nobody starts a business because they want to be an employer. It's a side effect of going into business, and it takes up a huge amount of bandwidth. But it's a universal issue. Every business that employs people needs help in being better at being an employer. And through that, we've developed services companies, Employment Innovations, which was the original business. It's the back office for thousands of companies around Australia. Power to Motivate, which is our global reward and recognition software platform, as well as loyalty and customer engagement. We invested into KeyPay, payroll, time and attendance rostering software, and obviously have launched Employment Hero. And over the last 5 years, we had our birthday last month, and over the last 5 years, we've built that out nationally and look forward to going internationally. So
5 years already.
Yeah, it's gone like that. Goes in a flash, doesn't it?
It really does. But the Big Red Group, of course, is a customer.
That's right. You are a customer of Employment Hero and Employment Innovations. It's good to share. So, look, this webinar is designed to help people in business understand from our experience, I guess, what we think leadership is and how you can grow a company or multiple companies using effective leadership strategies. Maybe we should start to dig into it.
So do you think a leader is born or created?
It's a great question.
So
I think I think a leader is created. I think an entrepreneur, like some people have more entrepreneurial qualities, but it's the grit and determination that makes them lead, like true leaders. The best example of somebody who I think, whether they were a natural leader beforehand, they certainly became one, was Ernest Shackleton. You know, when you're in the Antarctic and your boat sinks and you've got 50 people that you're responsible for, and you take on the responsibility of guiding the crew from almost certain disaster through to safety over a period of years with almost no resources. That made him, in my eyes, the best leader that I've ever. Yeah, the environment made him an incredible leader. Just that ability to give people confidence and faith and vision that they'll survive. That was a great example of leadership, and that happened purely through the environment.
Hollywood, they say there's only 7 plots in Hollywood, and one of the most popular ones is the reluctant hero. There's also the reluctant leader. So that is somebody who is called to purpose and they begin to gather people around them for that cause. And leadership is not necessarily the title that you have or the role that you are assigned. Leadership is a behavior versus an action. And I say that, and there's a difference between action and behavior, because behavior is at your core as part of your essence versus I know I need to do these tasks. And so when I ask that question about nurture versus nature, there is a little bit of both, but by nature, some people are positive. By nature, they have a certain skill set, I shouldn't say skill set, strength set that calls them to leadership. So I have always been passionate, and often to my detriment, because I am so passionate and so committed, I often can't hear what's going on around me because I'm so committed. So the difference between management and leadership for me, leadership is about calling everybody to the good of the cause. I'm uniting everybody, and I use tools and techniques to unite them. One of which is storytelling, but two is a sense of vision, values, and purpose and BHAGs. But management is about nurturing the uniqueness of the individual for the good of the cause. And I believe that both of those take innate strengths. Like, what is it that you're innately great at? I am not innately great at the management thing. So it looks like I'm interested in people because I ask a lot of questions, but that's because my strength is input and I'm gathering information. In fact, almost my lowest is empathy. but it looks like I'm interested because I ask a lot of questions. I really don't care. I shouldn't say that out loud, should I?
It's just between you and me.
Yeah, nobody can say. No, it's not my natural place, because if somebody says, oh, I can't come to work today, my mother-in-law's got ingrown toenails, I know in that moment I'm supposed to be really caring, but I'm like, but we're changing the world. I've got time. So for me, there is a fundamental difference. And I think the more that we explore and understand who we are, I think the critical thing for us to really work on as leaders is also how we nurture emotional intelligence. And so last night I was doing a piece of work for the University of Melbourne. And, you know, we have highly, highly skilled and talented, incredibly gifted students and graduates and postgraduates coming out. But the key to success is their ability to get along with other people and the ability to build relationships, sideways conversations. But I guess that gets us into the future of work as well.
Yeah. So just throwing back to that question though, out of all of that, nurture or nature? A leader's made or born?
I believe that it is nature. But with nurture, you can use your strengths. I think first of all must come self-awareness and knowing what you're not innately great at. And I know what I'm not great at, and I call them non-strengths. Of course, they're not actually weaknesses, they're just non-strengths. And I've been really clear on my own entrepreneurial journey that there's incredible people around me who have those, who have the strengths that I don't have. Gemma Fastnich, who's our COO at the BRG, she started with me at home all of those years ago. We've been together for 17, a very long time. And, you know, when she sends me a little text or a little email and it's just got that purple emoji, the little devil, I know I've done something wrong. But she says, I'm always being the detail in your devil. Yeah. So I've got the vision, but she's got the process, the systems. And so together we create that. And she's a natural manager, whereas I'm not. Yeah.
So what are some of the other skills that you think are essential for a leader, for a great leader? What are the things that you see the best leaders commonly displaying?
So leaders listen, and leaders listen deeply and are able to see different viewpoints. Great leaders nurture people, and which you might think is contrary to what I just said, but a leader in a meeting, let's say a boardroom, will make sure that they get everybody's opinion and that they gather the information and get people to sit into the conversation, whether they might be introverts or not. In other words, a leader understands that diversity makes them greater, and they learn to listen for the diverse viewpoints. And then they gather that information for the good of their cause. So, oh, that's interesting. And they put it all together. So I think, leaders definitely, the biggest skill has to be listening. Second is obviously emotional intelligence, is being able to sit in the world of another. And there's a really great book called Inspired Inc., which I read, I don't know, a couple of months ago. And the authors whose background was in Nike, and they see that there's been such a massive shift in terms of what CEO is. So CEO, we used to create strategy and then off we go. Whereas CEO's role now is to listen to the three cohorts. And I say cohorts versus stakeholders, and there's a different connotation. Customer, so how are we listening deeply to customer? How are we gathering their insights? Because often customer doesn't speak to us, they just vote with their feet, and we never learned anything. So what are our listening posts into customers, clients, and so forth? The second one is employees, is how am I listening and gathering information? Again, they often vote with their feet, or they might vote vocally on social media, of which you never know. And thirdly is the outsiders. And the outsiders could be a government body, it could be a lobby group, it could be shareholders. There's a whole bunch of people who in a moment can influence and impact the success of your enterprise if you're not attuned to it. And I use the example of, it's not even 2 years since a turtle was photographed with a straw up his nose. you wouldn't want to be in the straw business. And I noticed as I came in here, you've got the paper straws. You would want to be in the paper straw business. You don't want to. So that's when outsiders, nothing to do with your business, but they've decided it's not okay anymore to produce plastic straws.
Yeah.
So so therefore, as a leader, as a CEO, or sitting on a board, you must be listening and gathering that information. Have the emotional understanding to be able to present that in a way that then becomes strategy that people align to.
Yeah.
So we become really a ringmaster.
Yeah.
And I'm not the CEO. We know that, don't we?
Yeah.
David Anderson's the
David
CEO.
Anderson's.
Of course, he's much better at leading and managing people than I am.
I think they're interesting. I'm learning from you now that you're operating from that board level, whereas, you know, the board is something that I attend, but it's not my number one place of influence. But some other things I would add to the definition that I think are incredibly important for leaders are, and probably most of all, I would say, is like just absolute determination.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
we're both be pig-headed.
You can't be pig-headed. There's multiple ways to go around, like to get to the destination, and often, you know, you need to go around the mountain instead of through it or over it. But you have to be absolutely determined to arrive at the destination that you saw, and that's probably the second thing. So determination, number one. The second thing is that vision. You know, seeing a future that doesn't actually exist, that you can so clearly envision and can almost, it just makes perfect sense to you. Then, and you kind of look around, well, why don't other people see it as clearly as I can? And I just need to build and get the team to help us get there. So having that vision and innovation to actually see an alternative future, incredibly important. To come up with something that's that innovative, that's going to inspire people. And then lastly, I think is being able to inspire. You said that, you know, you're the ringmaster, you pull people together, but influencing and inspiring people, if you're not good at that, it's going to be very difficult to be a very successful leader.
Yeah,
so
and
I probably add
influence
those
can happen
things.
from anywhere. It's not necessarily a structural thing, and I think that's really important to note, that it's not because you've got that job. Now, I'm going to challenge you on one point.
Good.
So
Excellent.
You said, I've got this great idea, it's going to be really fabulous. You kind of said that. But that's what we get on the Shark Tank all the time, right? People walk in there and they go, oh, I've got this, I'm solving this problem, it's going to be amazing. And you can hardly wait to get on the bandwagon. There is a question there. And we as entrepreneurs or leaders in a commercial enterprise must make sure that something has commercial value. Who's going to buy it? What customers? Where are they? How do I find them? How can I get those sorts of customers at scale? And that's often the question that people are missing. So there's a new question that I consider when somebody says to me, I'm solving this problem. I say to them, what is the job you're being hired to do? Now, I didn't make this up. There's a Harvard Business Review report on it. And because the word hired implies commercial outcome. And I've always said, if we haven't got the means, we can't change the world. We have to make money. It's the way our system works. You know, we were just talking off air about inside Bill's brain. You know, he's got the means to change the world and make it a better place. So it has to deliver a commercial outcome. So, and I'll give you an example, is understanding why people buy. And they buy for three primary reasons. But understanding that and be able to communicate in that way is how we engage people on the journey. So there was, and this is in this Harvard Business Review study, there was a quick service restaurant who was trying to increase, it's called the milkshake case study. Mm-hmm. They were trying to increase the sale of milkshakes. And every time they ran a promotion, the sales would go back down to what they were after they ran the promotion. And clearly there's good money in milkshakes and they wanted to sustainably increase the sale of milkshakes. So they observed their customer and they noticed that people who were buying the milkshakes were coming out of the restaurant between 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. in the morning. And they were usually on their own. That was interesting. They presumed it was a family drink. They had presumed. Now, after 9 and before 11 is not a meal time. It's after breakfast, before lunch. So then they asked, what are you doing today that you've bought a milkshake? And they said things like, well, I've got a really long commute ahead of me and a coffee's too hot or a soda goes too quickly. The job the milkshake was hard to do was companionship. It was keeping them company. So they had thought it was a replacement for breakfast. It was a food. They had all of these presumptions. So there's three primary reasons why people buy. One is transactional. It was just really easy. You just made it happen so easily for me. I have no real relationship with you, but you were there. Second one is emotional. I feel better because I have done this. Third is social. I look better because I've done this. So when you understand the job you're being hired to do, you speak in the world of your customer, your cohort, your stakeholders. You live in their world, but you are far more likely to get a commercial outcome.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. You have to have a commercial outcome. And
otherwise, give me my product for free. That would be nice.
And we've all had conversations with people with great ideas, and before they, within 5 minutes, you've kind of done the maths in your head, and you're like, sorry.
Yeah, it does make sense.
Not going to work.
Yeah.
Great. So we've each grown groups of companies. We've each had to perform as leaders. We've both been in business for 18 years.
I know. Coincidentally.
Yeah.
We've come to maturity.
Yes. And then some.
I'm too vain to wear my glasses. I can't actually see you.
That's right. It's Ben here. So let's get into some of the techniques and strategies and formulas, I guess, that we've used over those years to grow our businesses and make us better leaders. Do you want to kick off? What's the number one thing that you think that you've used to make you a better leader?
Well, both of us were at Vern Harnish's Rockefeller Habits 18 years ago or 16 years ago. And that became a real underpinning of how we run a business. But also as we scaled and also things have changed, we've brought other things into that. The thing that I do know is we need to feel like one. If we are truly team, we need to be one. And when we've now got 5 different brands, how do we create one? The one comes from a single purpose. So the Red Balloon purpose was shifting gifting in Australia forever. And the BHAG was, to serve 2 million customers. And actually we achieved that and we got that. And we, now on Google, if you search for gifts, we're way up there. So one could argue we did that. But with this bigger thesis, we needed a different purpose. And the way that we discovered our purpose was we were sitting around as a senior leadership team and David was shooting the breeze with me. And we were just talking about, whatever. And then he came out and he said, we shift the way people experience life. And I said, that's it. And he said, Naomi, that's what you said 5 minutes ago. I just wrote it down. Shall I claim that? And I said, oh my goodness, I didn't know. Because often you can't observe yourself. And it was important because I was given the gift of the gab. I do have the words, but I often can't hear it in the context of maybe that's our purpose. Now that purpose of shifting the way people experience life has driven us. And it unites us in so many different ways because the world is about experience. It's broad enough for all of our brands, but it's also about the experience our people have at work.
Yeah.
It's also the experience of me doing this. I don't know who he's going to have a shifted experience of their own leadership journey because they heard something that I said. So it is broad enough that this word experience, but we just, because of the work we did, we shifted the way people experience life. And so that as a thesis, as an idea, really unites us all. But how do we know if we're successful? Because it's one thing to say all these words and people work very, very hard, but did I make a difference today? And that's where our big, hairy, audacious goal comes in, our BHAG. And for us, it became about the velocity in which we're serving people. So I worry, as does David and the rest of our senior leadership team, that people are so busy connecting, they've disconnected. They're so busy looking at their phones, they're forgetting to experience people, build relationships. And, the experiences, when you do an experience together, you build some relationship, some closeness, shared experience, good or bad, it's what we talk about. So that's why our big, hairy, audacious goal became about the velocity of impacting. And when we came into the business just with Red Balloon, David and I, we wondered if we could increase that velocity. And that first year we were serving an experience every 2.5 minutes. Our big, hairy, audacious goal is, could we serve an experience every second? And after that first year, we managed to get it through to 1 a minute. And by the end of this Christmas, as long as Employment Hero is going to buy fabulous Red Balloon,
we'll come to that later. Yeah.
Please, everybody, buy Red Balloon for Christmas because I want to increase the velocity. But we should be at 1 every 30 seconds, which is not bad in 2.5 years.
Wow.
And the other thing is, as an Australian business, we represent 2,000 small businesses who are out there employing people. And it's the hardest thing, as anybody watching knows, being in small business is finding customers. So our job as a marketing company is to serve them customers over and over again. And it is just incredible. I was with a supplier of ours who's been with us for the 18 years.
Wow.
And he said when he first started, he had 1 balloon with us. He had 1 balloon once a month, small balloon. Now he is flying 20,000 customers a year. When you know, and that's just one of our 2,000. And so and they know that they can trust us to serve them customers. So when we feel that inside the business, it continues to grow us.
Yeah.
The third metric, so first of all is vision.
Purpose, BHAG.
Is BHAG, and the third one is values. Because unless you know the playbook of how we're going to work together, everybody will be off doing kind of their own thing. And this oneness is really, really important to us. So our first value is one team. We just are one. It's all about experiences, no matter which brand you work in. Also, we want to be deeply curious. You know, hard thing, and you probably find the same, is once you get to kind of a certain level of success, people go, oh, it's okay, this is how we've always done it. And the world is changing so quickly, you have to stay completely curious. One is to be the best version of ourselves, to really do good work that we're proud of. And I think that that's really important. So we live every day our values, and we celebrate our values through our recognition platform, Ready.
Yeah. You're perfect.
Nicely scripted.
It wasn't even scripted. We didn't even go through that. But having that, you know, Simon Sinek's start with why, you know,
But we were doing why before he was.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think he wrote a good book. He wrote a good book, and he delivers it well.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely true. You know, you start with why. Understand if you're going to start a business, or if you even own one.
Yeah.
Stop for a moment and say, does every single person in this company understand what our purpose is?
Yeah.
Do we even have a clearly articulated purpose?
Yeah.
And I would hazard to guess, but I'd say that less than 20% of companies clearly have that purpose. So in our case, when people start with Employment Hero, and we say, you know, I sit down with every new starter and say, look, you need to, and to talk about empathize, like what's your job? You need to understand that employers carry so much weight, you know, as the responsibility for the financial wellness, the psychological wellness, the sense of purpose, the growth and fulfillment of people's, you know, ambition, and making their business successful. On top of all of that, you know, employers need support. They need help. They need tools. They need resources. And right now in Australia's history, there's so many examples of employers opening the newspaper on their iPad and being told, you know, employers are bad. They're stealing money, they're ripping people off, and there are plenty of examples out there. But when you hear that message over and over and over again, what you end up with is our 98% of the economy, which is 98% of all businesses, are SMEs, and they're waking up every day and they're not feeling confident. And our job, our purpose as a company, is to give employers the confidence they need, that we want them to hold their head up high and walk around knowing that they are creating 68% of all jobs in the economy. They're the reason that people, you know, can earn a living. The vast majority of all Australians are earning a living from them through their businesses, and they have to feel confident. And we need to build a tool that gives them that confidence that they're doing things right. And then they'll make great decisions. They'll employ more people. They'll grow. They'll be bigger and better. And so I remind people, not only is the purpose just there, but if we don't do our job well, if we don't give them that confidence and their businesses are smaller than they should be or could be,
or they're embarrassed,
that means that there's people who are unemployed. And for every person who's unemployed for longer than 6 weeks, they have a 70% higher chance of suffering from depression and mental illness. Now, our job is to ensure that as few people are in that position as possible. And when you articulate that to every new starter, that every day you come to work, you're making our economy stronger, you're making small business owners more confident and proud of what they deliver to our economy, and you're keeping people healthy, all of a sudden they've got a reason for being. Like they really can lean in. So yeah, purpose, absolutely.
So I wrote that book, Live What You Love, some years ago, and the 4th section of that book was about purpose. And some of the feedback that I got is everyone's talking about purpose, but what if I don't know my purpose?
Yeah.
And so, and I'd like to talk about that because the first thing that I advise people, I don't know what my purpose is. I just run a business. And the first thing is to stay curious, feel where your energy is. And purpose often comes from understanding the job you were hired to do and listening to customers. So when I get a little disillusioned or I'm just like, oh my God, this is so hard being an employer, so much going on, I just listen to customers and I get my mojo back and I get my purpose back. So that's a real kind of insight and advice, listen to customers. And I think that's really important. So the other thing I did want to talk to you about is this responsibility that we have as employers. And I remember all of those years ago when I worked at a company called Ansett, which was an airline. And I would watch, that was kind of a joke, never mind, you can laugh.
Well, I was going to say, probably half the people that are watching wouldn't even know what Ansett was. So you could have just been informative.
I know, I was informative. But the general manager would walk through the airport and never look at anybody in the eye and never talk to them, never discuss anything. And it was a very, very unionized workforce. Like there was 11 unions or something in those days in airlines. And I never understood why. I was like, why doesn't he just talk to people, whatever? It was fear. He was scared. And he was scared that he'd say something to somebody and they go to the union and say, oh, this should be part of our workplace agreement or something like that. It was absolute fear. And I don't necessarily know if that fear has gone away within workplaces.
No.
And so that's on the one side. On the other side, I am absolutely appalled by every day opening up the paper, like Rockpool Group. What were you thinking? You are supposed to be one of the elite, high class, restaurant chains in the country. How dare you treat those people like that? It's simple. Once you get employment hero and they won't have any problems with it.
That's a very easy solution.
Yeah. But seriously, I just like, so is this methodical? And if so, that's disgraceful. Or is it just inept? But when you see the same employers coming up over and over again, what are you doing to our young people? My kids, when they had their first jobs, been put on these training salaries or wages that were $5 an hour. That is a disgrace. And yet this is their first experience of work. Yet we're asking people to give their love and to join the purpose when their experience of work is they are the foe. I'm only here to get my money. So we are teaching our young people this, and it is really alarming for us. Now, if you want to be a little more alarmed, by 2025, 75% of our workforce will be millennials.
2025 or 2050?
2025.
Wow.
It's a massive wave coming because look at the population bell curve. And by 2025, I believe I'm a millennial, by the way, because if we think about the behaviours of what people are looking for at work, there's 5, I don't know if I can remember them all, but there is about 5. And maybe if we share with everybody our experience economy work paper, then they can read it for themselves.
Sure, we'll add a link to that.
Okay. The first one is the fact that people are looking at the experience of work. And that is they're prepared to give up salary for having a great workplace. This is not about having cookies in the reception area. This is about, am I purposeful? So what we say is you're not necessarily, you will have an environment where you get to do your best work. And that's our job as employers. We will challenge you to greatness and you will be proud of the work you do. So it's not just about the environment, it's about the work, this sense of accomplishment, that I knew what I was there to do and I saw an outcome. So the experience of work is really important. The second thing is that people are looking for optionality. So we've spoken about flexibility for a very long time. That is now table stakes. I expect to be able to work the flexible hours I want to. No, actually, I want optionality. And we've got plenty of people in our place who say, I want to work for 6 months and travel for 6 months. I go, oh, it's really hard. But that's what they're looking for, is optionality. I want more to my life than just work. And we've talked, and access, the ownership of things. And because we're looking at a generation of people who don't have debt, so we think, oh, it's credit card debt. No. Young people are not carrying debt in the same way as our generation did. They're using Afterpay, Zip Pay and other ways to pay for things, but they're not carrying the same level of household debt because they're also not buying things like houses or TVs or even cars. They just want to get to the other place. So there's a massive shift in terms of what people are looking for from their employer. They want to feel connection. They want to believe. They want to obviously be recognised and make sure that that the work they're doing is valuable and that they're contributing. Anyway, the work week, they only see themselves as one person, and they definitely won't give up their social beliefs to work at somewhere.
Yeah.
So in other words, social beliefs are really, really important. Are you not just a good employer, but are you a good corporate citizen?
Yeah.
And that's where our 1% pledge becomes really important.
Great.
Okay. Someone hurrying us up. It would be
I
pretty
think
funny if we had to do a fire exam.
Fire test, fire drill, but let's just hope
That's
it doesn't.
Webinars are all
it doesn't
about.
play
They're
out.
very relaxed.
Just with that interruption, mate, I think it'd be great just to spend the last 10 minutes or so coming back to those tools and processes that we've each used to be better leaders, but to ensure that people get that purpose and that sense of fulfillment through their work. And one of those things that we've both worked on, me through Power to Motivate, you through Ready, is reward and recognition and positive psychology. How have you used that? What are the things that Ready's doing and that translate from being a software tool into making people better leaders because they've got that tool? What is that?
Yeah, I should have bought actually our BRG yearbook, because what we do is for our offsite, we actually printed a book that has the 1700 moments of recognition in it, so that people can really see it and touch it, because often living in the digital world, it gets a bit lost. But what we've done with the Ready platform, which we do for our clients as well, is we make sure that we work in the way that our people want to work. So whether we like it or not, people are using Slack or Yammer or Teams or Workplace or whatever, but how they work, and we want the recognition to happen there, because that's where people are all the time. So Ready sits almost as an engine behind, but the social proof happens there. So in Slack for our business, people can recognize anybody anytime, hashtag recognize. It's in a channel that everybody gets to see it and gets announced it. And that social piece is really, really important, because other people can then buy into that recognition. The other thing is that we celebrate people over a longer period of time. And obviously ours is not just a recognition tool, but also a points platform, so that ultimately we want them to take experiences, to go out and share that with their friends. And when they say, oh, this weekend I'm going jet boating, oh, how come? Well, actually I got it because, and we want people we want people to have the conversation about, actually, my boss is really nice. And, I'm really grateful that, they saw the work I did and now I'm doing something this weekend. We're in the business of storytelling. We're in the business of creating. We actually see ourselves as a marketing company with the Ready tool, but using employees as the spokespeople on behalf of the brand, and as an employer brand, that, it's really great at work. I did this, I got that, and off they go. And experiences are also, because of the social nature of experiences, that they're likely to amplify that and amplify our clients' brands.
Yeah. And look, I buy into all that. And something I learned, I think it was about 10 years ago, I was researching positive psychology. We just launched Power to Motivate, and I thought, I need to become an expert. I didn't study psychology, so I dug in deeply. And one statistic that just sprung out at me was that, and it comes back to one of your very first points about, you asking lots of questions, not because you're hugely sympathetic, empathetic, but because you want the knowledge. And same here, but the average person, when you're speaking to them, they pick up on any negativity, but they don't really absorb that positivity. And to get it right, you need to recognize, you need to provide 4 pieces of positive reinforcement to every negative piece of, or every criticism, before somebody actually feels that you've tipped from being negative to positive. Yeah. So 4-to-1 ratio. And in our business, what we've done to sort of, we've built in all sorts of ways to do that. Every meeting starts with celebrations. It might sound corny, but when we sit down to have a meeting, whether it's the leadership team or any other team, we kick off and we say, what are we celebrating this week? And it's since we last met, what's something really positive that's happened? And often that's thanking the people around the table for how they've helped you. Every morning at 8:58, we have our huddle, or our 8:58 meeting, and it starts with celebrations, recognizing achievements and things around the office or outside of the office, even personal achievements, weddings, children, buying a home, whatever it might be. But we have to basically find every opportunity that we can to build that positive recognition and positive reinforcement into the day to even get close to 4-to-1 ratio. And then a software platform,
but it's not like Ready kindergarten. You don't do it.
It's not a kindergarten, but
I think you've got to be careful of that, because often people go, oh, well, it's like everybody wins in the game of pass the parcel.
No, yeah, or we all get certificates for competing, but
yeah,
I challenge that actually. Like, if you walk into a primary school classroom, it's loaded full of events to recognize and reinforce positive outcomes. We may have grown up. We might be 20 years older than a year 5 student, but
let's not do the maths.
Add some. But the sense of recognition, the sense of inclusion, it doesn't go away. It's not like you went from 12 to 30 and all of a sudden you don't need to feel that. We still need it, and I think the classrooms actually
belong is really important.
And I think the classrooms have it right. And we don't need a star system in the business, but you can't ignore the fact that all humans want that feeling of inclusion.
The leaders of the business.
Yeah, well, we're the ones that often miss out. So reward and recognition is very important. Has been for us. We've built that into Employment Hero. You've got an incredible platform, Ready, which is globally recognised as a fantastic platform for rewarding and recognising teams. Other things that we've both done to improve our skills as leaders across the business. OKRs, KPIs. What are you doing? We've launched and now been running OKRs internally.
So have we.
Tell us about it. What's the experience been like, and how are you doing it?
So we've done a bunch over the time. We started with KPIs, and then we tried the V2 MOM, which is the Salesforce approach. And what we found was it just didn't connect close enough to strategy in terms of, and we also found that the O, which is
objective.
No.
Oh, the V2O.
The V2 MOM was the risks that people go, oh, I couldn't get it done because of that. You know, so you put the barriers in there, and then people go, see, I told you I wasn't going to be able to get it done. So we found people so we moved to OKRs, and this quarter, for the first time, we found some software that we can actually cascade the whole plan throughout the whole organization.
It wasn't Employment Hero is doing that now.
I know. We're a customer. No, it's not that. It's that we have to find something before we
finish it. That's all right. We can switch.
And we did talk about it, and you go, So it's not. We would love it in one platform. Like, I'm so sick. And I think that's one of the real benefits of Employment Hero, is having all these things. So you could do with a bit more of a points platform in there, just saying, which you connect ready. But we're sick of having all of these platforms. And that's actually your theory, is one place, one execution, one employee experience. But you weren't ready, and we needed something. Yep. So we went, so maybe we're just trialing something else. But
that's right.
For the first time, we finally have this complete transparency as an SLT of where people are up to. And people love it. To my point of, what do people want? They want to see that they are doing their best work. They want to be recognised for that. And when it's so transparent. So OKR stands for?
Objective and Key Results.
Yeah, Objective and Key Results. And Atlassian use it, Google use it, lots of businesses do. There's a lot of case studies online that are freely available on how to set up an OKR system.
Yeah. And look, as I said, we've been using it for 12 months. We liked it so much, we built it into our platform. But as the CEO, it's been extraordinary. We used, as we've mentioned previously, we've been using Rockefeller Habits, the quarterly 90-day planning process. You do it every trimester?
No, we just now quarterly.
Back to
I'm
quarterly?
trying to push to trimesters again, because no one wants to do a plan in January.
It is tough. Although
really
we're going
hard.
away in December, and we'll have it ready for January.
But
But
we're a Christmas business. There is
true.
We've got 39 days.
Yeah, but aim, fire every 90 days. It's just such a great way to keep making progress on particular things that are super important. 16 years in a row, every single quarter, we've never not had a quarterly objective. We've certainly not achieved plenty, but because we were overly ambitious, or we didn't have the data. But that's been fantastic. And then what we've done in the last 12 months is taken our quarterly planning cycle and then rolled OKRs into it. And for the first time, I can actually look down and see there's 4 company objectives, and I can see how every single team, and to some extent every single individual in the business and the whole group, are contributing directly to something that leads back to what the company is trying to achieve. And not only can I see it looking through the organization, they can see how they're contributing all the way back up. And so that's been fantastic. OKRs have been incredibly powerful, much better than I thought, much more involved than I expected. I think Rockefeller Habits and quarterly planning is fun and engaging, but it's not that hard. Not if you do it often, if you do it every quarter for 16 years. But OKRs takes a lot more involvement. And only now, after 12 months, I think we're just getting much better at the scoring of OKRs. And it comes to the point that you mentioned about the V2 mob. Somebody didn't do something because of a risk factor. With OKRs, you score between 0 and 1. And somewhere around 70% is what is great, a great outcome. If you're achieving 100% of the objective wasn't hard enough.
Yeah.
And just now we're starting to look at objectives and look at people's scores and saying, hey, you know what? You got 55% of the way there. Congratulations. Next time, try and get to 60%. This isn't a performance management system. It's just knowing where we're going and trying as hard to get as far as we can towards where we want to get to. The system works great. And I would say, as a leader, to set objectives and then know and basically guide everybody towards achieving those objectives through OKRs has been a phenomenal introduction to the business. It's really helped us. So that's been good as a leader.
Yeah, I think it's critical that when people join you, no matter where they are in the cycle, that first week, the 2 weeks, that they get some OKRs.
Yeah.
So that, straight away, because we talk about this attachment phase before you get to engagement, and people need to know from day one what success looks like, and using the OKR tool for that really helps, even if it's not, you know, a bunch of them or whatever, and they're going to go into, which is only a quarterly planning cycle, so it's not that long away. But, you know, if somebody comes in 2 weeks into a quarter, we don't want them to not know what they're there to do for the next 90 days.
Yeah. I know that we certainly convey our company objectives, and when you join a team, you're getting involved in the team's objectives. So I would need to check, but I'm sure everyone will be getting an OKR within the first 2 weeks.
And how you bring people into the organisation is really important. And we don't always get it right.
Right.
But we, you know, it's not that it's not an intention. Yeah.
Any other tools, processes, things that you've done that you think make being a leader easier or more effective?
Apart from that, we give out a lot of vouchers for experiences and make sure everybody's connecting. I say that kind of flippantly, but we do, you know, we do practice what we preach, and it's really important. So we do a company offsite. When we do our quarterly planning, we do go and do something. You know, last time we did lawn bowls, and next time I can't tell you because it's secret. Actually, I don't know, because we have a whole team that does that. But it's really important that our team, because they're working within their own businesses, they get to meet other people. So we do practice what we preach when it comes to the storytelling and encouraging people to participate. We do a lot of experiences. There was a whole team last weekend who went skydiving. You know, they'd never done it before. 10 people went. It was great.
Well, that was an adrenaline, and that was initially an adrenaline thing, wasn't it? That after you complete your induction, you do a skydive.
Yeah.
So I think that employer branding, you're great at branding, you're great at storytelling, and I guess that's the other thing, is making sure that your business has an employer value proposition or an employer brand that attracts the right people. It's much easier to be a great leader if you've got the right people working for you.
But I guess there's a few things there. One is it's never set and forget. So, and we don't always get it right. So there is an intention there, but ultimately people have to choose. And this is the real flip. Like, we create an environment where people can learn, discover, do great work. But if people choose not to participate, they're always going to choose not to participate. And through the process of getting to know each other, we want to work that out really quickly.
Yeah.
So, you know, we are not running a kindergarten. We are not running, we want to be able to make sure that we have a team of people who are independent and using their initiative and innovative. And the way to do that is to make sure they feel that they are in charge of their own destiny. Yeah. And so with all of that latitude, we expect people to choose to participate. But it's up to them. Like, we can only create the environment, the check-in points. Yeah. But some people don't want to, and it's fine. You know, we don't get it right all the time. We're not the world's best. Apparently, we're not perfect. Who knew? Yeah. I sound like Judith Lucy when I say it like that. But who knew that we
didn't get everything right all the time?
No, and I guess that's another thing to say. It's not that we don't have the intention. We don't, you know, we do the work. We do the reading. We learn. That's the other thing as a leader. You can never, ever stop learning, ever. Because there's always something else, deeply curious. But we don't get it right all the time. We're not perfect. We sometimes say things that we shouldn't have said, and we put our foot in it. Pretty good at that one. But we are all imperfect human beings. And I think we need to forgive each other a little bit more. Yeah. We seem so intent on this perfection that we forget that actually the beauty can be in how we overcame something, how we work together as a team. That there is no perfect.
Yeah. Now, look, we're coming towards the end of the time. Now, BRG has been very generous to us and has put together an offer. Now, I'm going to come back to it. Before we get to the offer.
I think it's Red Balloon put the offer together.
Oh, Red Balloon put together a great offer. What the offer involves is experiences for teams, you know, leading into Christmas or even into the start of the new year, or, you know, induction. There's that shared experience, that thing that people will always remember and talk about is spending time together and having a great experience. And you're making it easy for all of the Employment Hero customers, 5,000 businesses, and growing quickly, and all of the other people on the webinar. You're making it easy for them to share an experience with their team. There's a website URL that we've put together.
Yeah, redballoon.com.au/employment-hero.
That's right.
And that's where your customers can have their special offer and so forth. I guess there's some things that I want to talk about. One is that we serve small businesses. Like, that's our job, that's your job, and that's why we've come together for this webinar. But it's really easy to make somebody a hero, every pun intended, inside their business. Whether it's a length of service award that you notice people when, whether it's a birthday, whether you're using it with your customers, but experiences create stories which will reflect on your brand. That's why we think experiences are part of the marketing of any particular business. And it doesn't matter how big or small you are.
Yeah,
if you've got 3 people or you've got 30 or 300 or 3,000, people are people, and they want to be able to brag about what they did. So there's so many different ways that people use experiences. For instance, I know one of our customers who uses it to thank employees if they refer a new employee. But they give it to the new employee and the person who referred, so they go on an experience together.
Yeah.
And then that creates some level of emotional connection to the business straight on their first day.
Yeah.
And that's what we want. We want people to feel great about us, not giving them a leaving gift, though you can use Red Balloon as a leaving gift, but we want them, it's whilst they're an employee, to talk about you greatly. And that's why we've done it, because we figure that we both work in the area of small business and we want to support them.
Yeah, it's a great initiative, and thank you for being so generous to all of our customers. Now, let's just, I think there might be some questions. Are there any questions yet? So there are some questions, and then what we'll deal with these. Just before we do, let's just recap. So correct me if I'm wrong, but let's just run through the things that we identified. I'm sure you will. Having a clear purpose.
Yeah.
Number one.
And if you don't know what it is, just stay curious.
Stay curious, or stop, put aside a day and figure it out.
Yeah, and spend some time on it.
Yeah.
It's not going to occur to you if you keep racing.
Yeah.
Got to be able to observe.
Yep. Systems such as OKRs.
Systems and processes allow you to scale.
Yeah.
And from the smallest business, there's so many amazing cloud-based systems available to people now, whether it's their customer management system, their employee management system. But if you invest now, then it'll allow you to scale. Actually, the hardest problem is when you don't do it and then all of a sudden you've got spaghetti and you're trying to clean it up. But systems allow you to scale a business.
Yeah. Great. We have 4 questions. Let's drive through them. So Geeta has asked, what are the top qualities and values you look for when hiring your leadership team?
Let's be really clear. I'm not allowed to do any hiring because I do all the talking.
This is an interview. It's not a performance.
That's right. So, whoops. But we look for diversity of ideas and experience. So people come from different places. And I think that's the thing that we enjoy the most, is that some come from corporate, some come from small business, some have been entrepreneurs themselves before. And I really want diversity of experience and diversity of industries. That brings different ideas.
Yeah.
And backgrounds, by the way.
Yeah, definitely. I think diversity of backgrounds increasingly, as we get bigger, it's like you start to realize that you've got these patches that are very similar and you need to break it up. But certainly the feeling I like most in an interview is when I'm sitting opposite someone and I sort of sit back and think, wow, this person is super smart. Like I'm feeling inferior psychologically. This person is just on their game. If they can display that they're really strong. And they've done the work. Yeah. Yeah. They need to know why they work there. You know, we put it out there, why we're in business, and we want people to align to that purpose. Definitely. We don't want to convince them of it. Yeah, definitely. If they come in here and they don't understand why Employment Hero exists, they're not bought into that, it's not their purpose for applying, then it doesn't matter how great your experience is, you're not going to come to you're probably not going to fit. Pamela has asked, do you have any advice on how to approach this idea of gathering people where the challenge is that everyone is spread all around the country, and often everyone has different levels of commitment since they usually have other jobs and things going on? We have one of our ready.com platforms that we have is with a client who has all home-based workers all around Australia. And I think there's about 400 in that program. And the thing that they've found is this recognition piece
keeps them united.
Mm.
And so in other words, they've set the strategy and then they're reinforcing behaviors based on both strategy, living the purpose and values, and they're using recognition for that. And it really has brought them together. They said they cannot believe the difference in their engagement score. It's almost shifted by 70%.
Wow.
And I think the case study is on our Ready platform. If not, we'll find it. Maybe we can add it as a link, because
that'd be great.
This is where the workforce is going, where everybody doesn't sit in the same office. We want them to feel a part of a team. How do you make it inclusive when people physically, and we can't keep all having to come into the city. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, I think KeyPay is a great example of that. A business that started in Wollongong but had people spread all over the east coast of Australia, and now is international, and they almost exclusively work through Slack, but they're the tightest knit team as a business. It's amazing. So you can use different things. We're almost out of time. Amy's asked, can the entire company see everyone's OKR's progress, and how do you roll that out?
They can.
Yeah.
It's actually just how you choose to set it up. But I probably should talk about the employment hero system rather than the one that we used. I do know in ours, there's complete transparency. So I literally can look at anybody. But if you choose not to, you could set it up, especially because they're different businesses, you could set it up in a different way. It's how you set it up.
Yeah. Certainly within Employment Hero, everybody can see everybody else's OKRs and the progress towards that. Best way to understand how to set it up is to just make contact with Employment Hero, and we can run a demo for you. Last question. What drives you ultimately to do your business?
Why am I still doing this after more than 20 years? Look, I think I'm doing worthwhile work. I love it when I speak to our experienced business partners. We are Australian owned. We have big guerrilla competitors from offshore algorithms. They literally can't see them. And yet day in, day out, I know that if I deliver customers to our experienced suppliers, I've made our economy a better place, and the money stays in Australia. The thing that worries me the most about these algorithms or performance, and whether it be Facebook or Google or any of the others, their money goes offshore, and we need jobs in Australia. We need people to be able to be financially secure in this country.
Yeah.
And it keeps driving me.
Yeah. And
I feel like little David and Goliath sometimes. It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard. And for me, it's a sense of working for small business. Like I think my father probably taught me this as I was growing up, and he said, mate, the people out there who have mortgaged their home to create a business and create jobs, they are the salt of the earth people. They grow our economy. They represent 68% of all jobs and 98% of all companies, and they need help. If you can if you want to work for something, interesting statistic, 90,000 hours is how many hours we'll spend at work. The only thing we'll spend more time doing is sleeping than working. If you want to, recognize that 50 years of your life is going to be spent working, then do work on something you're passionate about. And I am honestly incredibly passionate about helping SMEs be better employers and make it work more rewarding for their employees. It's why I get out of bed every morning.
See, purpose.
Purpose, absolutely.
Purpose is not about what you get, it's about what you give. And it is about making a difference to another human being, to making the world a slightly better place. And that's what I keep doing over and over again.
What a great way to wrap up. Thank you so much for coming to Employment Hero, for being a customer, and for being such an inspiring business woman.
It's okay, you don't have to say woman, it's pretty obvious.
I think people figured it out. Thank you to everybody who's attended live today. If you've got more questions, we'll answer those in our blog. We'll also share a copy of this webinar online, so for those who couldn't attend, they can watch it in their own time, or if you'd like to share it with others who might find it of value. We appreciate the time you've put in, and we look forward to catching up in the future. Thanks, Naomi.